So imagine for a second, you need to send a message 100 miles away. Your fastest options are either a horse or this clicking machine that only speaks in dots and dashes.
Yeah.
That was the reality. Communication was a total nightmare.
It's hard to even picture now.
Welcome to our show. Today we're diving into the story of Alexander Graham Bell, the man who basically shattered that distance barrier. We're going to track his journey from just a curious kid all the way to the inventor who connected the entire world.
It's such a foundational story for all of modern technology. And you really can't get the ending without understanding his beginnings.
Let's start there then.
Okay, so Bell was born in Edinburgh, Scotland in 1847. And his family wasn't just, interested in sound, they were completely immersed in it.
Right, that family legacy is so important. We're talking about generations of people who studied the mechanics of speech.
Exactly. His grandfather and his father were both really well-known experts in elocution.
Which is the art of speaking clearly and expressively.
Yep. And they worked a lot with people who had speech and hearing problems. So Bell grew up with this incredible hands-on understanding of how sound works.
It wasn't just book knowledge.
Not at all. It was all about acoustic vibrations, resonance, the precise mechanics of the human ear, very practical stuff.
And you can see that practical side in him really early on. We always jump straight to the telephone. But his very first invention.
The wheat husker.
Yeah. At just 12 years old, he built this simple little machine for a local mill owner to get the husks off the wheat. It just solved a small, everyday problem.
But it shows that he had that engineering mind from the start. But the real turning point, the thing that put him on the road to the telephone, that required a huge move.
Right, to North America.
The whole family moved to Brantford, Ontario in Canada around 1870. They were looking for a healthier climate.
But Bell himself, he pretty quickly moved to the U.S.
He gravitated toward Boston. He went there to teach at a school for deaf students. And that work really, it solidified his passion for breaking down communication barriers.
So his day job is literally focused on helping people communicate.
Every single day. He's thinking constantly about how to translate sound, or even the lack of sound, into something that can be, understood and sent from one place to another.
And he looks around at the best technology they have at the time, which is the telegraph. So what was the big frustrating problem with the telegraph that he was so determined to fix?
In a word, inefficiency. The telegraph was amazing for its time, but it could only send one message at a time on a single wire.
It was like a one-lane road.
A huge bottleneck, exactly. If you wanted to have 10 different conversations going between Boston and New York, you needed 10 separate, really expensive telegraph lines.
And that's where his background in sound comes crashing into the world of electricity. His first big idea wasn't the telephone. It was something called the harmonic telegraph.
That's right. And what's so fascinating is he wasn't trying to send a human voice. Not yet. His goal was much more practical, to make the telegraph cheaper. He thought, well, if music can have different notes, different frequencies all existing in the same air, why can't electricity do the same thing on a wire?
So the idea was to send multiple messages at once, each one writing its own musical note, basically.
That was the theory. Tune a bunch of transmitters and receivers to different precise musical frequencies, like keys on a piano. And you could send all those messages down the same wire without them interfering with each other.
It's an early version of multiplexing, sending multiple signals over one channel.
Exactly. It was a brilliant idea. But it never really worked reliably enough to be used commercially. The tuning had to be perfect.
But all that work wasn't a waste?
Not at all. Those hundreds of hours he spent trying to turn sound vibrations into unique electrical patterns. That was the essential foundation for his next big idea, the really big one.
And here's the pivot, right? Because the telegraph works with these on-off signals, clicks, dots and dashes.
It's digital, basically.
But human speech isn't like that. It's a continuous, messy wave of vibrations. It changes pitch and volume all the time.
And that is the huge leap. To capture the nuance of a human voice, you can't use simple on-off clicks. You need something different. You need a continuous electrical current that varies moment by moment to perfectly match the sound wave of the voice.
That sounds incredibly difficult to build, a machine that sensitive.
It was a massive mechanical challenge. Bell was a great theorist, but he needed someone who could actually build the delicate little instruments he was dreaming of.
Enter Thomas Watson.
Thomas Watson,
Right.
a talented young electrician who became his partner. Bell had the science, Watson had the hands-on skill to actually build the prototypes.
A perfect match of theory and practice.
The perfect team.
Yeah.
And they spent months and months refining this thing. a device to turn sound vibrations into a fluctuating electrical current, and then another device at the other end to turn that current back into sound.
And then came the big day, March 10th, 1876.
That's the one. Bell's in one room, Watson is in another. And Bell speaks into the machine the famous words, "Mr. Watson, come here, I want to see you." And it worked.
The first time, clear, human speech traveled through a wire.
The world changed in that moment.
Okay, so you've made this incredible discovery. The next thought have to be, how do I protect this?
Immediately, the race was on. Because an idea like this, well, it could create a massive industry.
And the timing on the patent was just
Like-
wild.
Astonishingly tight. Bell applied for his patent. It was patent number 174,465 on February 14th, 1876. Just a few hours before another inventor, Elisha Gray, filed a very similar idea.
Just hours. So during all the legal fights that came later, was it just that he was first to the office?
That helped, but it wasn't the whole story. The courts really looked at the substance of what he filed. Bell's application described the winning method, using that varying continuous electrical current, the analog method. Gray's idea was a bit different, a little less developed.
So Bell proved he had the core principle figured out first.
He did. And the courts sided with him again and again, even though he spent years fighting off challengers.
So you've won the legal battle. Now you have to win over the public. You have to convince the world that this talking box is actually useful.
Right. He needed a big stage. And he found one at the 1876 Centennial Exhibition in Philadelphia. This was the telephone's big public debut.
And a very important person was in the audience.
Dom Pedro II, the Emperor of Brazil. He was there. He saw the demonstration.
And the story goes he picked up the receiver, listened, and just dropped it in shock.
He shouted, "My God, it talks!" And that reaction, I mean, you can't buy that kind of publicity.
No way.
It created headlines all over the world. And that excitement, combined with the patent, is what finally brought in the serious investors and the first real customers.
So Bell and his partners, they knew this wasn't just about selling a device. You had to build a whole system.
A network. You can't have a phone if there's no one to call. So they founded the Bell Telephone Company in 1877, and then the real logistical nightmare began.
They had to actually start stringing wires.
Wires everywhere. At first, only wealthy families and big businesses in cities like Boston and New York could afford it.
And the infrastructure for that, I mean, we're not talking about fiber optic cables buried underground.
Oh, no. Think about the ugliest telephone poles you've ever seen and multiply that by 1,000. They had to string thousands of miles of copper wire, pole by pole, through crowded city streets. It completely changed how cities looked.
A jungle of
A
wires.
literal jungle. And to connect all those wires, you needed another piece of brand new technology.
The switchboard.
Exactly. Huge, complex boards with human operators, almost always women, who would physically plug in jacks to connect one line to another to complete a call.
It's amazing how fast it grew. Just 10 years after that first message, you had over 150,000 people in the U.S. with a telephone.
The demand was just explosive.
But I have to imagine those first calls sounded awful. All that interference from the other electrical wires in the city.
They were terrible.
Yeah, the sound quality was poor, the volume was low, and the noise, the interference from telegraph lines, from early power lines, was a huge problem.
So Bell's invention was just the first step. The engineers had to keep innovating around it.
Constantly. One of the best early innovations was something called twisted pair wiring.
Okay, what's that?
Instead of just running two wires parallel to each other, they twisted them together. And that simple twist drastically cut down on outside electromagnetic noise and made the calls much, much clearer.
Huh. Simple but brilliant?
It was a huge deal. They had to do that. They had to improve batteries. They had to automate the exchanges. The invention was one thing. Making it a reliable system was a whole other battle.
It's so easy to just file Bell away as the telephone guy.
Yeah.
But his curiosity went so far beyond that one invention.
He was a true polymath. He just never stopped. He had this other invention, the photophone.
The photophone.
It was a device that could send sound on a beam of light. Think about that for a second.
So, wireless communication, using light. He was working on the basic principles of fiber optics almost 100 years before the technology was actually practical. It's just astonishing foresight.
Wow. And he also worked on more immediate problems, too.
He did. After President Garfield was shot in 1881, Bell rushed to invent an early version of a metal detector to try and help doctors find the bullet.
Did it work?
It didn't end up saving Garfield's life, but it was a big step forward for that kind of medical technology. He also worked on flying machines, huge kites.
and he helped found the National Geographic Society.
Right. He was just endlessly curious and committed to spreading knowledge.
So when you step back and look at the whole picture, the legacy of the telephone is so much more than just talking to someone across town.
Oh, it was profound. I mean, before Bell, distance was time. After Bell, distance was instant. Businesses could operate across the country. Emergencies could be reported in seconds, not hours. It saved countless lives.
He didn't just shrink the planet. He really laid the groundwork for our whole digital world.
That basic principle, turning sound into a continuous electrical signal and back again, that's still the backbone of so much of our communication network. It's in our mobile phones, it's in the internet.
The tribute they paid him when he died in 1922 really says it all.
It really does. On the day of his funeral, every single telephone service in North America went silent for 1 full minute.
The whole continent just going quiet.
A tribute to the man who gave the world instant speech.
Alexander Graham Bell's incredible curiosity, which really started with his family's passion for sound and speech, gave us the single most important tool for connecting the modern world.
And we still rely on those basic principles every single day. But when you think about his other work, like the photo phone, trying to send a voice on a beam of light, it makes you wonder.
What's that?
Does the work of the greatest inventors show that they're not just solving the problems of their own time, but maybe, just maybe, they're accidentally creating the rules for technologies they couldn't even possibly imagine?
Something to think about. See you next time.